Good afternoon. I'm Emmanuel Faber. I'm the chair of the International Sustainability Standards Board, and it's my real honor to participate in the Securities Analysts Associations of Japan's Symposium on Sustainability. First and foremost, I would like to apologize for not being able to either attend in person or even having a live session with you, as at the very moment you're watching this video, I'm traveling. But I would like to start by thanking Chair Toriumi for inviting me. And again, it's a pleasure for me. I've been a CEO and a CFO for 25 years, and I have met so many analysts in my life, including in Japan, from many of the major broker and securities company in your country. So I'm here to talk to you at the invitation of the association about the ISSB adoption and why it is meaningful for you and your stakeholders. And I'll try to do this in a brief manner in introduction to this important event. To start with, I'd say the adoption of ISSB, since it was created at COP26 in Glasgow in 2021, has been very fast around the world. We today have exactly 40 jurisdictions that have either already started to implement the standards or have committed to implement the standards through pathways of adoptions, such as what Japan is currently doing. In particularly, I would insist on the Asia-Pacific momentum for this adoption, because out of the 40 jurisdictions, 17 are from the Asia-Pacific region. And it's basically the largest cohort from a regional standpoint among that community of 40 jurisdictions. Meaningfully, those 17 jurisdictions account for 75% of the regional global GDP, which basically means that the level of influence of those 17 jurisdictions is going to be absolutely critical in the region. Interestingly, of course, you would find the two largest economies in the region, Japan and China, but also Korea and many others. You would also find important financial hubs in the region, including Singapore and Hong Kong, developing very populous developing economies such as Bangladesh or Pakistan, but also very important members of the ASEAN community, including Indonesia and so many others. And so this is extremely impressive for us, and I have to say we are very grateful to the trust that was placed in our work by the financial community, the investors, the business community in many ways, and of course the regulators in the region. You could wonder why that is the case, and I think it's a function of a number of things. And first and foremost, I would probably start by saying that Asia-Pacific has been a region that has been an early adopter of the IFRS accounting standards in many ways. And there is a long tradition and relationship, of course, very successfully in Japan in particular with the IFRS Foundation itself. I think it is relevant to the adoption in the region, because one critical factor for adoption is the trust in the product itself. And that trust is not linked to the product, it's linked to how the product is being manufactured. And the ISSB, as you know, as a sister board to the IASB within the IFRS Foundation, benefits from the same governance, the same due process, the same public sessions, the same rules for consultations, and stakeholder engagements. And this is building on the strengths of the IFRS Foundation that we have been able to create standards that are labeled with the IOSCO's endorsement exactly the same way as 25 years ago IOSCO decided to endorse the first standards of the IASB. So that is, I think, probably one of the most fundamental reasons why so much trust was created so fast, in particular in the Asia-Pacific region and in particular in Japan, because the FSA, Japan FSA, has long been a partner to the IFRS Foundation and has become a critical member of our jurisdictional working groups and our bilateral engagements in the ISSB as well. I think the other thing I would say is that the region is a region where there is both a very wide diversity of types of GDPs and economies, populations and population dynamics, with Japan on one side and jurisdictions like Bangladesh on the other side with a very fast-growing population. But I think one global aspect from the region is its growth. The region is growing. The integration, economic integration of the region continues to exist despite a number of geopolitical complexities outside of the region that are also touching the Asia-Pacific region. But this integration is a fact and will continue to be a growing fact. And that is even true more when it comes to the financial markets. Global capital markets are a reality, and this is also a fact growing in the Asia-Pacific region. So why that matters on adoption is because in many jurisdictions, we have been seeing governments and regulators choosing to adopt the ISSB standards because they are a facilitation for trade. As the standards are looking wide and deep into the value chains, the supply chains on one side, and the value chains downstream, the operations of companies. And because they are looking at the short, mid, and long-term horizons, you are basically with those highlighting important aspects of risks or on opportunities that are related to your trade situation. So if a jurisdiction has 50%, 60, 80%, like some of them, of their trade partners adopting the ISSB standards, and then it becomes obvious that to facilitate the trade and the transparency on some aspects of that trade, including on the value chains, the ISSB standards can do that in a way that is comparable, reliable, assurable. And connected to the financial statements. And so we have seen that in other regions as well, that once there is a nucleus of a critical size of jurisdictions that have decided to adopt, then the rest of the region is joining because of that trade and foreign direct investment opportunities that are lying there. I think, I really welcome the way the adoption process is happening, including in Japan, which importantly is now going to move from the Japanese standards that are fully aligned with the ISSB and prepared by the SSBJ, now to the phase where it's going to go into proper regulation through a parliament legislative process in the coming months with a phased approach to the largest entities, listed entities, and then fastly expanded to the second tranche and a bit longer for the third one. That is a commendable approach of proportionality in the way it's happening. And this is where I think your work as the Securities Analyst Association will actually start. So I hope you're all very excited about this, because certainly we are at the ISSB that Japan is reaching that particular point. I'd like to highlight one aspect which I know many of you are wondering about, which is that with IFRS S1, which is our general requirements, and the climate standard IFRS S2, where are we on completing our work? And I'd say briefly on that we are heavily investing right now as a board and with our engagement team, regulatory and market engagement team, to ensure that there is capacity building, that there is readiness in the market, especially for those markets that prepare themselves for the first report, in order to ensure that there is quality application and implementation appropriately of the standards. So that is first and foremost what our teams are doing, including providing technical advice, educational material, roadmap development tools, so that it actually happens. But we're also conscious that there is more than climate. And of course, as we are here to build a comprehensive global baseline of standards, it's very important that we also address other potential topics. And as you know, we currently have on our 2024-26 agenda 2 more topics, global topics, which are nature, capital, and human capital. On nature, we've come to the phase at which we will create standard. And we've committed that by October this year, an exposure draft would be published. We intend this standard to be complementing the climate standard because of the nexus that exists between climate and nature in so many ways, including about water scarcity, for instance, and other aspects, which may create competitive advantages or disadvantages for companies, and therefore could create risks or opportunities that could affect the prospects of the companies, and therefore, importantly for you as financial analysts, to take that into account. The other one is human capital, which I know is a very important one in Japan, as we've heard even from your Prime Minister when we first visited in 2022. So we are working on this, as you know, on a research phase right now. We intend to conclude that research phase by the end of this first half of 2026. By then we will decide which form of standard or other technical work we will do to pursue our ability to bring appropriate disclosures as part of the ISSB toolbox on this important aspect for many companies, for a number of jurisdictions as well, and on which investors have clearly expressed their interest when we consulted on the agenda that we are currently running at the technical level. The last aspect is the SASB standards, the industry-based standards. And I'd just like to say one thing, because I know that there is probably less practice around the SASB standards in the Asia-Pacific region than in other aspects of our toolbox. So for instance, integrated reporting is hugely popular in Japan, with more than 1,000 companies practicing integrated reporting already. But SASB is only growing. It's growing fast, by the way, in the region, more than 50% growth year on year, but from a low base. I would really encourage all of you at the Analyst Association, but also your stakeholders, to take a clear look at the SASB standards. They have proven over the last 10 years to be the most cost-effective and decision-useful metrics and disclosures in the sustainability space. And they are entirely focused only on the financial materiality that is deemed to be of interest for decision-making by investors. There are a set of disclosures that allow investors to compare within an industry the level of risks, of opportunities on topics that are deemed to be potentially financially material. Of course, you only consider and refer to the SASB standards to the extent that one of these disclosures expresses a topic that is material for you as a company. But it is important for analysts to also understand that you can run very efficient comparison within a sector before you go to your sector allocations on a stock-by-stock basis with the SASB standards. So that is my advertisement for this conference to you. And let me say more broadly that we are now working on 2 important aspects that will bring more comparability and simplification in the system further. Many of the 40 jurisdictions have chosen to make direct reference to our work, and that's the case for many in Asia Pacific. When it comes to Japan and other large jurisdictions with very sophisticated capital markets, a number of them have chosen to develop, like in Japan, their own standards, for which most of them, including in Japan, are producing functionally aligned outcome to the ISSB standards. In other words, Japan is fully adopting the ISSB standards, but the language is slightly different. So for a multinational company, facing now in 2025, 17 jurisdictions that are going live around the world, many of them have slightly different languages to produce the same information. So with this group of 40 jurisdictions, including the FSA in Japan, we have started conversations around a notion of passporting the ISSB standards as issued by ISSB to reduce the cost of reporting when an international company has a local subsidiary or is a foreign private investor in a particular adopting jurisdiction. So that simplification of the language will actually also facilitate trade and foreign direct investment further. And I wanted to report that as one of the important strategic topics that we're dealing with this year. The other one is, I think, a longer-awaited one for the larger companies in Japan and in Asia, which is how do the European reporting standards on sustainability connect with the global baseline that we're building together. The good news is that after the simplification process through the omnibus process in Europe, we are now engaging in very concrete conversations with the European Commission to potentially come to a view that we can simplify further the interoperability table and may even be able to remove it as a system so that jurisdictions-based entities like in Asia preparing ESRS can start from their ISSB-aligned report and add what is missing to meet the ESRS requirements under the CSRD regulation in Europe. We expect to be coming back to our community globally and for you in Japan, probably late in the first half of this year or this summer with concrete final news on that topic. I will finish this introduction by just saying, as a CFO for many years, as a CEO, as I told you in my introduction, I have met many of you. I have met many of your colleagues around the world. I can tell you that investors are looking on their buy side as much as on their sell side to your approach on how you are going to use the information about risks and opportunities on the sustainability domain. I hear a lot that, geopolitics now is everything that counts and ESG is over. We've never been about ESG. We are about the question of whether business models are resilient, whether economics are sustainable. Can we, in a world that evolves so fast, with climate which is changing and evolving, with water issues, with geopolitics that are cutting supply chains, all of these risks are actually aggravating the situation from a resilience standpoint and may also create untapped opportunities for those companies that will be better placed in this new game. And so my plea is that understanding the value chains and the resilience of those should be a critical aspect of how you evaluate the valuation of companies, in particular in a world where the market to book value ratio on average is anywhere between 4 to 5. So I think the financial analyst community has a critical role to play in supporting the way the dialogue is being built between preparers on one side, trying to explain their strategy and what they want to do and the performance, and the investor community, and you're the bridge between the two. And this is also a reason why this conference is such an important event at this juncture. So with that, I would like to thank again the organizers and Chair Toriumi for having me here, and I wish you all a very successful event. Thank you. Arigato.